Hello, hello. Good evening and karibuni.
Good evening.
Welcome to episode 20. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to
Good
episode 20
evening.
of our leadership live show. And thank you for making time to spend an hour with us and our guests this evening. In line with the Mental Health Awareness Month, which is the month of October, today's talk is about dyslexia. In our virtual studio today, we have Phyllis Muni, Kendi Okech, and Dr. John Onala, and our host, the man himself, Waweru Njoroge. And behind the scenes, we have got Elijah the Invisible on controls. For those watching us live on YouTube or Facebook, you can ask questions or make comments that we can pull up on screen. We value your contribution. You can follow us via Twitter and Facebook handles at Gr8leadership Live, 8 being the number 8. You email us on Gr8leadershipLive@gmail.com. Waweru, habari yako?
Mzuri sana. You know how they say time flies when you're having fun?
Exactly.
This is episode number 20.
How fast time has flown.
I know.
That's June.
It's been a brilliant experience.
Yeah. Now I can hear some sound leaking from somewhere. I don't know if there is a YouTube or something on or what's happening. I don't know.
We'll get to the bottom of it eventually.
Yes. So, Karibuni, nice to see everyone in studio today. Hello, Phyllis, Dr. Onala.
Yeah, we can hear you. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you too. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, where is that music coming from? Oh.
You know, it's your studio that's making all that noise, by the way, Marto.
I wonder.
You're there pointing figures. You're pointing figures at people, and you're the one making the most noise.
Who?
Martin.
So the thing is Ninyong mic, and I listen to the stories today. Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm saying the best solution to this is I keep my mic and I just listen to it. But you all look good in red today. Somebody will explain to us what the red is all about. This is the reddest I could get.
Let me ask our guests. Ask our guests first to quickly introduce themselves, give us a bit of a background, then we'll get into the show, especially starting with why we're actually all wearing red today. So I'll start, as usual, ladies first. Kendi, please tell us who you are, what you do, and Phyllis, and then Dr. Onala.
You're on mute. Unmute, Kendi.
Sorry about that. My name is Kendi Kamanja Okech. I'm the founder of Talk Dyslexia, an organization I founded in 2018 after I found out that I have dyslexia. So what we do at Talk Dyslexia organization is we create dyslexia awareness, advocate for teachers training, advocate for early assessment and intervention. Because as you know, when the intervention is done early, so the dyslexic kids are better able to cope with the learning. That's in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Kendi. Phyllis, please give us a brief introduction of who you are, your background as well.
I'm the founder and director of Dyslexia Organization Kenya. The organization was started in the year 2011 when we realized that there was not much information about dyslexia. We also have a school for children with dyslexia called Rare Gem Talent School, which is in Kitengela. At Dyslexia Organization Kenya, we train teachers, we create awareness about dyslexia, we do assessments, and we go have partner with the International Dyslexia Organization to create awareness. Like now, this month, which is the Dyslexia Awareness Month, we are creating awareness, and we have a hashtag says "Go Red for Dyslexia." and it is being done everywhere in the world during this period of the Awareness Month. And I'm a parent of a child with dyslexia. And that's how actually I realized about dyslexia and took it upon to train him. And then we started the organization. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. Dr. last but not least.
Right. Dr. John Onala. I'm a consultant in development and learning disabilities. I'm currently working at First Steps Intervention, an organization that does assessment, psychological and educational interventions, and we also run a program for children with different developmental and learning disabilities based in Karen. So I've been doing assessment for quite a number of years. I do assessment in different areas of development and learning needs.
Thank you, Dr. We seem to have lost Martin, who has dropped off, but then let's carry on with the show. Dr. I want to ask you this first question. Actually, I need to give credit to one of my friends who asked when I shared this topic. His name is Clem Kwasa. He asked me, why is dyslexia such a difficult word to spell? I found that quite amusing. But I'd like to ask you now, Dr. where does the word dyslexia derive from? And does it have any reflection on intelligence or ability?
Right. The first time when the term dyslexia was used was many years ago in Greece, when they realized that there were children who were generally very intelligent but could not learn reading and writing. And so they coined the term to mean bad language or bad readings, where the term dys means bad or wrong, and then lexia or lexicon means language or writing. So dyslexia was initially used to mean bad reading or bad writing or bad language. And then after that, it was used to mean word blindness. So meaning that there were people who could see well, could hear well, very intelligent, but could not read and write like their neurotypical peers. Basically, that's how the term was coined. And maybe I can add something. You said, why is it difficult to pronounce the word dyslexia? Do you know that a big number of people with dyslexia can hardly pronounce that term dyslexia? So if you randomly ask people with dyslexia to say the word dyslexia, quite a number of them will say things like dyslexic or something close to that. Right.
Oh, okay, I've learned a new thing. Well, where are you back on? Yeah, I think there's a connectivity issue this evening. Wawero. Okay, I don't know if Wawero, because I also disappeared for about 3 minutes and I missed some part of the questions. But I don't know if he asked what causes dyslexia. Has that been addressed?
No, we've just looked at the first question on how did the term dyslexia, how was it coined? The meaning of dyslexia. Yeah.
All right. Maybe I can shift to Phyllis Kariuki. How what causes dyslexia? Your mic is off.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dyslexia is actually caused by 3 things. You can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Is caused by, there is what we call
Phyllis, yes.
primary dyslexia, which is caused by genetic. It is passed through in the family through it is hereditary. We find people in the same family who have learning difficulties. That's hereditary, and it is in somebody's genes. There's nothing somebody can do about it because they are born with it. There's developmental dyslexia that is caused by acquired or developmental, it is acquired through when the child is being developed in the fetus. It can happen during developmental, the first week of, or the first week of pregnancy, and probably that's why many people are told, or mothers are told, not to take certain medicine, because it can be caused by medicine, it can be caused by drug, it can be caused by maybe smoking and drinking. When during the cells mutation at the early age of pregnancy. That's developmental dyslexia, and it is very hard to differentiate between developmental dyslexia and primary dyslexia because it is not known. It cannot be identified early because you would not know when it happens with the person. Then we have the trauma dyslexia, which can happen to anyone, you, me, even somebody who had acquired reading even at old age. It is caused by when the side of the mind that causes learning is affected or injured. For example, if somebody develops meningitis and the side of mind is affected, they can lose the ability to learn or to read. Maybe cerebral malaria can also cause dyslexia. An injury to your head on the side that causes helps you to read. If it is injured, you can lose your ability to read and write. So we have those three: primary, developmental, and trauma dyslexia. Trauma can happen to anybody at any time in their lifetime. Primary dyslexia is mainly it's easily identified in school when the person is gone to school, because you cannot tell this person by just looking at them when they are young, because they are very okay. Uh, uh, Developmental dyslexia, on the other hand, it can wear out. For example, if a person, the child who was born by a drunkard parent, those things that are in their body can wear out, and a child can actually learn to read at later life. And you find that a parent would say, my son or my child was having problem reading, but when they grow up, they are able to overcome that problem. So probably Dr. can elaborate more on that.
I'll come back to Dr. I want to bring Candy into the conversation. Now, Candy, I wanted to find out, and this is obviously from maybe a personal experience, but what are the effects or the symptoms of dyslexia?
I'll talk about the ones that I experienced myself because I understand them better. Early in my school days, for example, when I read, I was not able to comprehend something. So I'll just flip through the pages of a textbook without really knowing what's happening in that book. And then I had a lot of spelling mistakes. Like when I write composition, sometimes they don't make much sense, or they have so much. They have many spelling errors. I remember, like when I was in high school, my teacher reading out my composition because it had, of course, it had so many spelling mistakes, and also the expression when it's written in written form wasn't making so much sense. So the teacher thought probably this is the worst composition he had ever seen. So he thought he'll call me out and say something like Candy beauty with no brains, listen to what she writes. And then he read out my composition out loud, putting all my spelling mistakes on the board. You can imagine what that does to someone in Form 1. I mean, I was a teenager then. Then I have something called slow auditory processing. So sometimes I'm not able to follow when I was in school, what the teacher was saying. So I'd get lost into the lesson just a few minutes. And once I don't connect all the information that the teacher is saying, then I'm not able to understand the concept. And once you lose me, that's it. So I'm lost for the lesson. And then I have sometimes I know what to say, but I don't have words to say it. For example, when I'm in an interview or I want to answer a question, sometimes I know the answer, but then I don't have the words to say that answer. And then directionality confusion. I also have a lot of that, like left and right, up and down. That was a long time before and after. I used to have issues with that. Pronunciation of G and J, even right now, when you tell me your name and your name has a G or a J, I really struggle to, is it G, J? Like those two letters really confuse the hell out of me. There's when I started seeing Dr. Nala, he asked me, did you have a delayed speech? And really, I never got to know, like from my parents or my siblings, if I had a delayed speech. But there was a question he asked me, and he told me, yeah, you had delayed speech. So I know that. Then I used to think I had a hearing problem, because sometimes when there's a lot of noise and you're talking to me, for sure I will not get whatever you're saying. Like, for example, I could see my son is watching a movie and he's playing a game on the phone, and I'm wondering, how are you able to multitask that much? Like, you're still you can hear, you can follow a story on TV and still play a game. Those are things I cannot multitask like that. My concentration on something has to be 100%. So if there's a noise, there's noise and you're talking to me, or there's music, for sure I will not differentiate between those. Everything just becomes noise. Yeah, those are some of the symptoms that I've experienced myself.
Thank you so much for sharing, Candy. Daktari, now that Candy just mentioned you, and I want to bring you back in and ask the question, how is it you test, or how do you diagnose dyslexia?
Right. You've asked two questions in one. How do we test dyslexia and how do we diagnose dyslexia? Those are two questions.
Yes.
So there's diagnosis and there's testing. Now, in testing, we use specific dyslexia tests. There are quite a number of dyslexia tests that you can take, but it's a process. It starts by getting background information. So if we are testing a child, then we'll interview the mother. How was your pregnancy? What did you go through? How was the child born? The early years? At what age did the child start walking? At what age did the child start talking? What were his or her experiences in early years? Did he take long to learn basic sounds, reading and writing? So we get a lot of background information. And then after getting background information from the parents, and if it's a school-going child, then we get information from the school. We scrutinize the child's work, that is written work, look at the exercise books, to look at the type of mistakes that the child makes. And then after that, we take the child through a number of cognitive tests. So there's a requirement that if diagnosis for dyslexia is to be made, then the child must have average, above average general intelligence. So that's a requirement in the diagnostics and statistical manual. So that means that intelligence testing is a necessary part of testing for dyslexia. And then we have a number of tests that would evaluate a person's reading, fluency, spelling accuracy, verbal and written comprehension, then processing language. So after gathering all this information, then we get the standard scores. So we make decision as to whether a person has dyslexia or no dyslexia based on the person's scores. Now, it is also necessary to know that a person can have all the symptoms of dyslexia, but then something happened in the background information. If you look at the diagnostics and statistical manual, we have what we call the exclusionary clauses, the clauses that will exclude a person from diagnosis. For example, if a person is struggling significantly with reading and writing and spelling, but then we know that the person had poor start in education, maybe poor educational background. Let's say, just giving an example, if we get a child at the age of 9 or 10, let's say from Narok, has not been to school before and is joining a school and cannot read and write, we cannot say that person has dyslexia. Or maybe a child who has been sick for a long period of time and has been hospitalized, and then now this child is failing in school, cannot concentrate, is not doing quite well. Even if the person shows all the symptoms of dyslexia, then the person still does not meet the diagnostic criteria. So there's a specific criteria that we'll use for diagnosing. So you do the testing, and then after getting the scores from the test and the background information, then you check on the requirements for diagnosis on the diagnostics and statistical manual that lays down how the diagnosis is made. So if a person has been traumatized and has gone through a challenging time in life and is failing because of the past history, then again, diagnosis cannot be made. And also, diagnosis cannot be made if a person is struggling in language because that language is not his first language. For example, if we get a Chinese child joining a Kenyan school and we are teaching in English, and it's this person's first time to start learning English, and so is failing, again, diagnosis cannot be made. So diagnosis is made after undertaking thorough evaluation of the child's level of literacy, numeracy, language skills, and then examining the person's background information. Right.
Okay. Phyllis, I'd like to ask a question because you had mentioned the different types of dyslexia. First question I'd like to ask is how common actually is dyslexia? And then the second question I'd like to ask you is, are there other learning disabilities besides dyslexia?
Sorry. Dyslexia is actually common. We say in many countries, like international countries, they say between 10 to 15% of people, like International Dyslexia Association says between 10 and 15% of the population has dyslexia. However, in Kenya, there has been some research that shows between 10 and 15. But remember, all of us know somebody who has had this problem in school, and we labeled them slow learners. So these children, or these the one again, others say between 1 and 5 people have dyslexia. So if you look at it, you realize that in any one class, there are between two or three children in any one class that they have these hidden learning difficulties. So yeah, dyslexia is very common, and it is the main problem or learning difficulty among the other learning difficulties. 80% of people with learning difficulties have dyslexia. And yes, the other learning difficulties that occur with dyslexia. For example, a person with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, that's another common problem that occurs with dyslexia. We have attention deficit disorder. We have maybe language developmental problem. The other problem that comes with dyslexia is behavior problem. What you find is that people will identify the behavior, but the problem that is there actually is not the behavior problem, but it is dyslexia. But if it is not diagnosed early, the person will be demonstrate problem like behavior problem, but their real problem is learning that has not been identified, but they have traits that hides their difficulty in running in or their dyslexic nature. They are hiding that by being unruly or having difficulty, trouble in school or at home. So we have other learning difficulties like dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia. When we call dyscalculia and dysgraphia is difficulty in maths. Dysgraphia is difficulty in writing. As was explained by Dr. Onara, dys means difficulty. So when we say dyscalculia, we are saying difficulty in maths, difficulty in writing, that is dysgraphia, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Those are mostly the co-occurring difficulties with the child who have other hidden learning difficulties. Again, dyscalculia, or a person with dyslexia may not have dyscalculia, but because of their problem in reading, they may have problem with learning maths because they are not able to read. If they were read for and understood the question very well, they will not have problem with maths. So there is that difficult problem in identifying the two, because dyscalculia is in maths, but this person does not have a problem with maths, but has a problem in reading. So he has not, or he's not able to be able to read, to decode the question and understand the question. So he will fail that maths question, but his main problem is in reading. Those are the main co-occurring difficulties that come with dyslexia. And yes, it is very common in class.
Okay, thank you so much for this. Martin, I understand we have a video. Rather than getting people's mouths dry from all the talking, I know I want to ask Candy something, but I think not actions speak aloud. Evidence is in the proof of the eating. So I wanted to see. I know we have a video from Candy's Engage, which I'd like to share with the viewers so they can get it actually firsthand in terms of what she has gone through. Then we'll expound on that a bit later on. But if you have the video ready to run, Martin, can we just take that off and then we can come back to the questions. And Martin is on mute as usual. Okay, technical difficulties. All right. In the meantime, as Martin gets his video ready, Candy, then I'll come back to you and ask this question. And it's something that Phyllis just touched on now. She talked about behavior, and I think you'd also mentioned it. But how did your dyslexia affected your behavior? I think you'd also mentioned aspects of not being able to concentrate on two different conversations or a lot of noise in the background. But yeah, in terms of your behavior, how's your dyslexia affected you personally?
Well, I think I became shy because I didn't want people finding out who I really was, all the struggles I had in school. So even up to now, I struggle making, like, in social gatherings. I'm not the person who go introducing myself and talking to people just like that. I tend to go to people I already know. If I don't know anyone, I can actually even stand there by myself without really trying to socialize with anyone. So it's a coping mechanism that I developed, and I've just that has been me, and I have not found out how to get out of that. Like being more social. So I still find myself going back to the shy person I was. So yeah, that was my coping mechanism, because I didn't want people finding out who I really was. So I became shy, and people took me as I don't talk much. I'm soft and all that. So I went with the flow. And again, also behavior-wise, I was a very unhappy child, I would say. Like, even from school, like when we were taken to boarding school in class 4, I remember running away from school because school was just so frustrating for me. And I told my mom that I had a toothache, which was a lie. So I was taken to a dentist. And where I came from, Maua, Meru, back then, the only solution to a toothache, which was a molar, was pulling it out. And believe it or not, the tooth was taken out, and it was one healthy tooth. Because I didn't want to tell my mom that I ran away from school for absolutely no reason. So I would rather have the tooth pulled out than the beating I would have gotten after. So sometimes there are these behavioral things we see, but we tend to think this one is just destructive and all that, but it's a cry for help, and the parents are not able to pick that cue quickly and do something about it.
Thanks, Candy. If Martin seems to have not thought out the video yet, I want to tie in something to one of our previous shows, actually, and I'm going to direct this question to Dr. Terry. Something that Candy said about shyness, and I know there's certain ways that people do cope with their shyness, and I wanted to find out, is there any correlation between people who might have this, or who do have dyslexia, and the propensity for them to have signs of alcoholism, in the sense that a lot of people who are alcoholics say that it brings out a side of them where they're not feeling shy, they feel more confident, they can take on the world. So I just wanted to see whether there's any correlation in terms of a sense of alcoholism based on shyness that people who have dyslexia will tend to show.
Okay, right. People with dyslexia experience a lot of social challenges because of their learning difficulties. And this stems from the fact that majority of them are very, very intelligent. And so if they do not understand certain things, then they also wonder, how come I don't understand this? Maybe it's the best mathematician, it's the best scientist, it's doing so well in so many other areas. But again, failing in areas that require verbal fluency, they fail in reading, they fail in spelling, sometimes with a lot of challenges in writing. And that generates a lot of behavior challenges. So research shows that people with dyslexia and people with ADHD are more likely to be involved in drugs than the neurotypical children, trying to run away from the challenges that they're experiencing. And the community is always putting a lot of pressure on these people because you have a child who is very intelligent at home, but at the end of the term, his grades are very low because he could not read the questions right in school, and so he failed. But he knows all the answers. I think you've heard people saying that I knew the answer, but I failed because maybe he did not understand the question. And so they develop a lot of anxiety, and anxiety is a mental health problem. So there's a lot of anxiety, there's truancy for school, there are a lot of behavior challenges that they will experience. Sometimes they'll try to avoid doing certain tasks because they anticipate failing. And because of that, they develop a lot of behavior challenges, and as adults, some of them will struggle to keep their families. They will have problems with drugs and alcohol, and sometimes even keeping jobs become a challenge. And therefore, working with maybe a professional guiding and counselor or a trainer or a coach would be necessary in that case.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Martin. I believe we have the video. We have the video ready. And okay, his mic is muted. His mic is muted. Yeah, I'll get that right. You're having one of those days, huh?
Maybe it's everything just keeps freezing.
Clearly.
Yep. Okay, so here we go. This is Candy's video at the Engage Talks. And
can you recall your primary school days? Those kids you went to school with, that didn't seem to get anything. The easiest, simplest of things, these kids could not get. And they were labeled stupid, lazy, dumb, and they were isolated and bullied. You didn't even want to associate with them or even sit next to them because you thought, watakuambukiza ujinga. I was one of those kids.
Stop it there. Everything is freezing. Your mic?
Matu, you did that on purpose. No, it's if you watch the rest of our videos, it's extremely engaging, and the personal aspect in terms of what Candy shares is very powerful. Candy, what was going through your mind? Because you seem like it's not like you seem to practice. I mean, you did that Engage talk completely professionally. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is, what was going through your mind as you were sharing what you were sharing? And what is the feedback you got from actually sharing what you did at the Engage? See, Martin, you're muting everybody's mics.
No, I'm not. I'm not actually sure what's happening here.
No, I'm saying that the feedback keeps coming. Even up to today, I still get messages, people telling me, Candy, now I understand myself now better. I know what I've been going through all my life. Thank you for the video. Like, so many people can relate. Even guys who've been through employment, there's one who told me she had just actually given out her resignation letter, and that's the time she saw my video, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is me, and this is exactly what I've been going through, and this is what I've done. That I've left my employment because of the same reason." And what was your other question? Sorry.
What is going through your mind? But then I'm actually going to jump to that because there's something in the video that, if I remember correctly, you started working in a bank.
Yes.
Yeah, and how was that experience in terms of when you got that job at the bank?
Well, initially it was very scary for me because, I knew I have issues, but then I thought probably as I proceed with life, the challenges will minimize or they'll disappear. So when I was employed, I knew what my challenges were, and and anxiety was just the worst of them all, because when a customer approaches me, I've already started panicking. Like, probably I will not even get what this customer wants. So once the customer opens their mouth, I'm there now already in my head. My head is racing that I won't get what this customer is saying. And then the customer will be so frustrated. And then he can even go and tell on me and all that. I used to get so worried and so just second guess myself all through. And when I got the job, and of course we were given all the tools after the training, then you're of course told to carry on and do the job. I remember, because of so much that is expected from you, and you're handling cash, and here is someone who is getting confused with so many and having so many worries, then you start losing money. And of course, when you lose money and you're a teller, my friend, then you don't know what you're doing. So of course, my probation was extended by 3 months. I think we had joined the bank about 12 tellers, and I think it was only my probation that was extended. Now you can imagine what made me that feel, what I felt after that, because I already know, yes, I have challenges, and then it's being rubbed now on my face that, yeah, for sure you're not as good, there's something totally wrong with you. So I kept on fighting it and thinking, okay, with time, I think I can improve, I will improve. Well, with time I improved, but my writing skills really never improved, because when I write an email, even me, I can tell when I read it, it's not making sense. Sometimes I would write a sentence, I'm thinking, okay, this sentence needs some punctuation somewhere, but where do I put it? Because when I read, it's like I run out of breath. I'm thinking, and the person who is reading now, what will happen to them? Like, I need to make them breathe somewhere out from this sentence. So, like, I guess put a comma here. And the only punctuation I was sure about was a full stop. Full stop and a question mark. Those are the only punctuations I'm really sure of where to put them. So when you write an email, and of course the person receiving it says they didn't understand what you're saying, of course, yeah. My written expression is just horrible, and I cannot communicate. And of course, that keeps eating into you, pole, until when now I got a hang of things, and I moved 3 levels up. At the 4th level, I was acting as a manager. And then when a vacancy for that position arose, I was told you have to do oral interview. Now, as I'd mentioned about my challenges, the symptoms I have for dyslexia, one of them I said is a slow auditory processing. So as you're asking question, sometimes I'm not able to process all of it, so I get lost. And I have a very poor working memory as well. So processing the question, and when you make it too long again, you'll completely lose me. And again, of course, expressing myself, when answering the questions, and anxiety, because that one was number one, because I'm already second guessing myself that I will not get this interview anyway. So of course I didn't get the interview, the job that I'd been on for almost a year. I even advocated for that you get compensated when you act at a position for more than 3 months, and actually that was done. So when I didn't get the job, I was like, seriously, I have already proved that I can do this job. So, and have not been given because I was not able to express myself and say I can do this job. So what makes me think an organization that really the only thing they have of me will be what I'll be telling them, and I'm not good at that. So how will I ever proceed in my career? But before just giving up, I tried other organizations, and I got interviews in some really good organizations, like even World Bank. And of course, the outcome was the same. Like, I was not able to express myself, so I don't get the job. And that's when it really hit me, you know what, I can't proceed in this life of employment. So, and after like 2 years of going through depression, of stopping to work because I became totally unmanageable. So I called it quit, and I left employment, and now I started doing my own business. And that's when now I started looking for answers about really what's going on with my life.
We do. I'm going to come to Dr. Then, Phyllis, I want to bring you in terms of the aspect of development and childhood learning with dyslexia. Dr. Based on what Kendi just explained, I'd like to ask a question. So how do you manage? I would not say you can treat dyslexia because it's there for life, but how do you then manage dyslexia? And more importantly, and I think a lot of people might want to know, how much does it cost to actually do all this?
Thank you. So for dyslexia, if dyslexia is diagnosed early in life, let's say in lower primary school, or maybe when a child is just finishing kindergarten, then intervention becomes cheaper and easier because we have developmental programs for individuals with learning difficulties. So if we have a kindergarten child or a child in lower primary with dyslexia, then we can get very nice programs that can be used. We have, I can give examples of programs like NESI. We have all about reading, all about spelling, Jolly Phonics. There are so many programs that could be used in school. And then the child will be able to develop certain level of independence in reading and writing and spelling. And sometimes they outgrow some of the symptoms of dyslexia as they develop. In adulthood, it's more expensive, or even in high school. If you evaluate a child in high school, then intervention becomes more expensive because sometimes we'll require assistive devices. I'll give you examples in terms of costs. Handling dyslexia is not cheap. So if I have a teenager in high school who is struggling significantly with reading and is approaching KCPE or KCSE, then I might ask the parent to buy a reading pen or C pen. This is a scanner that will help the person to read. And right now, if you buy it directly, it will cost you somewhere between 30 and 40,000 if you are buying it directly from the manufacturer. Or if you are buying it from retailers, then you'll be buying it at almost 80 or 90,000 shillings. So it's quite expensive. If you're buying programs like, let's say Kendi, in Kendi's case, there's problem with auditory processing, and you want a program like the listening program is 30,000. Or if you want a program like Soundstory, that's between 30 and 40,000 shillings. So evaluation is expensive, and then the programs that you use to gain some level of independence in processing language, in reading, spelling, all those specific skills, all those things are quite costly. and quite expensive. And then our education system sometimes might not be accommodating. Can you imagine if a child walks in Form 4 right now and says, I need to have a scribe, that is a person to write for me in school? Most likely, NEC might say, no, that's not allowed in Kenyan system. I'm a very intelligent person, I have all the content, but I cannot read, so I need to have a reader. They might not accept that, but you see that is still a cost on the person with dyslexia or the parents. Or the person needs oral language modifier. These are things that a person with dyslexia might need. Or speech recognition device, or the person need to use software for typing, those kind of things. So if you are looking at the cost to run a dyslexia program like what Phyllis is doing, it's not cheap, it's expensive. And these programs break, and sometimes you need direct training for you to be able to use this program. So it's very expensive. We are talking of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands to be able to access programs for dyslexia. So that's how expensive it is. In developed countries, the government does this, so the services are available in schools. And even for adults, employers are sensitized and they know that it's possible for a person to be very productive and still have dyslexia. We are not yet there as a country. And so when Kendi comes up to advocate for this, then you can see things are opening up. So it's one step at a time. We are moving there.
Okay, thank you so much, Derek. Kudos to you, Phyllis. Kudos to you, Phyllis, for advocation and advocating. Then that actually brings me to the question I wanted to ask you, and more specifically, so what supports mitigate the frustrations felt by learners with dyslexia?
Thank you, Awero. First and most importantly, area identification, as Terry said, and this can happen between a keen parent can start realizing that the child has a problem, like as was explained earlier about delayed in speech. So the support that a person can get or a child can get is from the parents understanding that this child is not pretending, because a dyslexic person you will not know by just looking at them, or even as you can heard from Kendi, is like they are very normal children. So the problem comes when they are in school and not catching up in learning like other kids. So what they do, they get bullied. So as a parent, you need to understand that the child is not pretending or lazy, as they are called. Now, when it comes to the teachers, this is where the rubber hits the road, because this is where the child is being identified. But if a teacher is not aware about this condition, they will always think this child is pretending, this child is lazy, this child is bullish, or all that kind of things. So the teachers need to be patient with the child, understand that no child that is pretentious, no child wants to not to learn. Even the child himself is not understanding. By looking, being with other children, he knows that I'm bright. Even when they are going to play outside, they are very active and really like crowd putters. But when they go to class, they are not as good as they are outside. So even themselves, they ask themselves questions. Why am I not like so and so? Yet when I'm outside, I'm good. So a teacher here needs to be very patient and also understand that no child would want to be the last one. No child would want to be having problem with reading. Again, asking this child to read in class in front of the others is really like pouring cold water on this child. So the support mainly comes from the family, the teachers, and the teachers will influence how the other children treat this child in class. Because if a teacher like Kendi explained earlier about how she was shamed in class by her composition being read for the others, you realize that all the other children will know this child has problem, and they will start bullying that particular child. So the support mainly comes from the teachers, and the teachers can influence even how the parents who are not aware there is the existence of this problem will treat this child because they have already shown empathy and understanding to this child. Again, right now we have the internet. A teacher might just need to go outside and just learn why is this child having a problem, so that they can be able to understand and learn, even though maybe in their teacher curriculum when they were learning this was not there, but at least now there are software, there are tools that a teacher can just go outside, out of their way, and learn about any problem that the child has and be able to support, instead of now the name calling. What mostly happens is when a child is not achieving or learning as fast as the other kids, what the teachers do, they leave the child behind, but in the same class, but they go on with the other children. No intervention is given, so they are neglected in class. So a teacher needs to understand this child and try to find this child at their learning need, where at their learning level, and see how they can be able to help. Another problem that comes is when the children are made to repeat classes. Actually, many parents will ask, like I had a parent just when the school opened, they said they want their child to repeat class 6 because they think if he repeated the class, he would catch up. But I told them that won't help, because the problem is not with the child didn't miss anything in that year. If he was sick and admitted in hospital, probably that would mean he missed the class or the learning for that year. Making him repeat and he was in the same class last year, it will not help. He will only attract bullying and name calling from other children. So support comes from the parents, the teachers, and the entire community by understanding and being patient with this child. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. Motto, is there another video we have? Okay, we've lost Martin again. He's the one on the technical side. Okay, fine. So I wanted to ask Kendi then this question. It's a bit away from, in fact, Phyllis, you answered a lot of things that I was looking at from a learner's perspective. I can see you're well prepared from that perspective. Then I wanted to ask Kendi, what are the typical myths and misconceptions about dyslexia? Okay, you're muted.
Misconception fact is slow learners. We are not slow learners because from my video, I give an example of when I went to Kenya School of Monetary Studies, and there was one Mrs. Ogola who was a teacher for everyone. Like the way she explained things, you were able to relate. And I didn't have to go to the library to study and bury myself there for me to pass her unit. I just listened to her because there was a way she was delivering that message that I was able to relate and understand it completely. And I got a distinction in her unit. So slow learning is, they say we are slow learners because people they don't know how to teach us. So if you knew how to get into a dyslexic mind and teach them the best way they understand, then actually we learn as fast as everyone else. Then of course, intelligence. Dyslexia is not a sign of intelligence for sure. It's not a sign of lack of intelligence, sorry. Because again, I even when I was struggling to know, am I really stupid or is something wrong with me? I knew for a fact I wasn't stupid because I remembered like in high school there was during physics lesson. There was a complex question that I was the only person who got it right. Then the teacher asked me to go in front of the class and explain to the rest of the students how I arrived at my answer. But because of my struggle with communicating again, I couldn't explain myself how how I arrived at the answer, but I had done it on my book. So the teacher looked at it and she said, and this method for Candy, not unless you're very smart in maths, I wouldn't advocate you use it. Let me show you an easier one. So those are the things that I would go back to and say, you know what, I don't think I'm really stupid, but for sure there's something wrong with me. So yeah, we are not stupid, and we are okay up there. The other thing is they're called lazy. Man, that one I got a lot. Like, mpaka you almost start believing you're actually lazy. But when I get a book, I'm reading, nothing seems to make sense. I read up to the end, it doesn't make sense. So I'm thinking, okay, do everyone else experience what I'm experiencing? But from the look of things, guys used to perform. My siblings, we have 3 engineers and a pilot in our family. So you can imagine the kind of even presents they used to bring from school. And me, I come with nothing, like just full of excuses, and of course feeling so sorry for myself. So yeah, we are not lazy, and we are frustrated, so frustrated with ourselves because we don't understand ourselves. The parents are not understanding us. The teachers don't understand us. So you're left alone. So you don't know what to do, and you become because of failing so many times. It becomes like part of your life, and you're thinking, okay, this is me for the rest of my life. All I know is failure. I'm not good at anything. So you give up on yourself, and your self-esteem is so much affected. Because even when you achieve, I used to think whatever I've achieved, I think it's by luck. I used to think it's by luck. It's not me, because I don't think I have that kind of a brain to achieve all that. You second guess yourself, you feel so bad. I can tell you, when I put a name to this condition and now I really understood it, it really was a game changer for me. Yeah, so those are some of the misconceptions that I've come across.
Thank you. Phyllis, you wanted to put something in. I've just seen, do we raise our hands here like we do on things like other platforms? But there's something you want to add, Phyllis. Unmute your mic, by the way.
Yeah. Actually, I have seen, and I wanted to bring in that many people expect that they would go to hospital, they take their children to hospital, and they'll be given medicine, and the dyslexia will just go away. So another misconception is that dyslexia is not an illness that can be treated by medicine. And so even if you took your child to hospital how many times, if they have a dyslexia, they will not acquire reading by giving medicine. And also, the people say about oil, fish oil. I say dyslexia is like being left-handed. Even if you treated a person with, we all know that people who are left-handed, when they are beaten to use the right hand, they are able to use the right hand, but they don't become right-handed. They remain left-handed. They will only be able to write or pick a spoon and eat with their right hand, but they will not be able to. They will be doing everything else with their right hand because it is not that they can just put it in them. Again, the other thing that about dyslexia is that no two people are similar. Dyslexia affects people differently. You find someone who has, like Kenny has said, has slow auditory processing. You find the others who are very good at that. But they have another aspect of dyslexia that is totally different. So they are totally different people with dyslexia, but behave differently. There are those even who are good readers, but they cannot comprehend what they have read. So two people with dyslexia, yes, but they are not similar. They are not like each other. So they are not same, and they different, yet they have dyslexia. And again, dyslexia is in levels. There is those who are mild with dyslexia. So again, depending on their level of dyslexia, they will have different challenges. For those who are very severe dyslexic, again, different depending on the type of dyslexia they have, they may not even be able to learn in a normal school. Or they will require a lot of effort, and even reading may be completely hard for them. But those who are mild, they will fit in a normal school and continue, but always will be lagging behind because there are differences in learning. They are different learners. As Candy said, yes, they are different learners, not slow learners. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Phyllis. Daktari, I'm seeing we're running out of time, so I'm probably going to finish with you quickly. Two things that come up. In terms of dyslexia being mixed in with more severe disorders such as mental retardation, cerebral palsy, autism, etc. That's one aspect that has been touched on before in other studies. But what I wanted to find out from you, Daktari, is as much as that could be a problem, and also the fact that dyslexia can develop as a result of maybe a head injury when you're older and things like that. Phyllis mentioned the severity of dyslexia. I wanted to find out from you what evidence exists that dyslexia does not limit learners throughout their lives, and people who've actually come through dyslexia, or despite dyslexia, have made great achievements. Unmute your mic.
Yeah, that's an important question. You see, for diagnosis for dyslexia to be made, one requirement is that the person must have average, above average general intelligence. So if the level of intelligence is significantly low, then the person has intellectual disability and therefore cannot be diagnosed with dyslexia. So most people with dyslexia are more persistent. If they want something, and they'll try. So let's say a person with dyslexia starts a business and fails, that person is likely to go back to the same business and fail again and go back until they succeed, because they are experienced with failing. So in most cases, they are not deterred from trying. And then because of time, maybe I can mention something on the issue of clumping people with dyslexia together with people with intellectual disabilities, cerebral palsy. If you do that, then intervention cannot take place. You cannot have a shared intervention between a person with intellectual disability and a person with dyslexia, because dyslexia is a specific learning difficulty that affects specific areas of learning that can be intervened. So you can have dyslexia-specific programs for a person with dyslexia. Well, intellectual disability or mental retardation is quite general, affecting intelligence, affecting adaptive behavior, and so many other areas of functioning, including severe cerebral palsy. You know, in cases of mild cerebral palsy, then you can share certain interventions, but in cases of severe cerebral palsy, then you cannot share the interventions. But then if you go again in the requirements for diagnosis under Diagnostic Statistical Manual, then there's a requirement that diagnosis should not be made if the learning challenges are as a result of brain trauma. If maybe a person got an accident, was involved in a road accident, or the person has had a stroke or something like that. That would not then qualify for diagnosis based on the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. Now, when we are making diagnosis, we must always check to make sure that the diagnosis that we are making is in line with the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, so that if the same person goes for assessment elsewhere, maybe move from Kenya, you go to the US, or you go to the UK or Australia, right, and diagnosis is done, then we must get the same kind of diagnosis. And therefore, we must adhere to the protocol laid down in the Diagnostics and Statistical Manual for diagnosing these conditions. I don't know whether I've responded appropriately to the question.
No, I mean, well, there was actually, Dan, there was something at the end that you didn't quite. Well, it's not that you didn't quite. I think the question was split into too many parts. So I'm going to throw this question now to everybody, and I suppose it ties into one thing. Candy has already mentioned it, and this is not to take away anything from her story. The aspect of what value can people with dyslexia add to an organization or to humanity as a whole? So I'm going to ask each one of you to name at least either Kenyan, globally, whatever the case may be, that somebody who has dyslexia and despite their dyslexia has actually been able to make a huge contribution, a huge impact, either within Kenya, outside of Kenya. I'll ask you to name at least 3 each. Is 3 too many, or 3? I'm sure you can name 10 if you wanted to. If we look at maybe about 2 or 3 people that you can say that people might not know, this person had dyslexia and they went on to do A, B, C, D. I'll start with Phyllis. Sorry, Phyllis, unmute your mic, please. Yeah.
They have named themselves.
Sorry,
they are
Phyllis,
dyslexic.
yes.
Otherwise, it would be. Are you hearing me?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Good. I'm going to name like 2 Kenyans who have come out and said they are dyslexic. And because if they had not said, and even if I knew they were dyslexic, I may not be able to have the authority to say them. We have our member of Women Rep in Nairobi, Madam Pasaris. She has said she's dyslexic. We have the KICC Managing Director, Nana Geshaga. She has said she has dyslexia. Those are Kenyan. We have other Kenyans who are not as known like those ones, but yet they are playing very important role in the country. We have lawyers. I have a lawyer who has come out. He has said he's dyslexic. He's called Martin. The owner of Kitabu is a program for helping children with learning difficulty. He's called, he's dyslexic. Those are mainly Kenyans who have dyslexia. There are many, many Kenyans who have dyslexia and they have come out, like Kendi, grown up and doing very good, helping develop this country in a very big way. So I know we have mentioned and we'll mention international, but I want to bring the Kenyan aspects whereby people now can start recognizing the Kenyans who they can relate with and who can become mentors to these people who are dyslexic in Kenya, and so who are doing many jobs, good and helping Kenyans. Like, just think about it. Yeah, Pasaris brought up the idea of adopt a right. I mean, it was a very good concept. So that is the intelligence, and we are missing in Kenya because we are pulling these children out of school because of the frustration. Some have even decided to commit suicide if they have not committed suicide. We have like children last year, but one, like 2 who you can, from the story, you can pick because of the frustration that was not diagnosed, they committed suicide. If they were left to learn and live, probably they would be the Richard Branson we have in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. Candy, over to you. You can name yourself.
Oh yeah, Candy, proudly dyslexic.
Yeah.
I'll name few: Jennifer Aniston, Mel B.
Yeah.
Yes.
Richard Branson, of course. In fact, the first time I read about Richard Branson's case was a long time ago, but the only thing I could remember about the story was... Sorry? Hello?
No, carry on. Sorry, I was saying Richard Branson is somebody I've looked up to very much. Yes, we can hear you. Okay.
Oh yeah, because what he says about his dyslexia, I could relate to it so much. Oh, sorry. Kobe Bryant was dyslexic, so he's all rest in peace. Those the genius we all know about. What is his name escaping? The one for relative theory.
Albert Einstein.
Yes, Albert Einstein.
Einstein.
Yes. Those among many.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Candy. Daktari, again, we're going to finish with you. Any notable people who actually have dyslexia who have made an impact globally, within Kenya, regionally, whatever the case may be? Daktari, I think you're on mute.
Okay, yeah, I was saying that people with dyslexia have made significant
Daktari, just
contributions.
unmute. I think you're still on mute. Yes.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I was saying that people with dyslexia have made
now I can hear you.
Yeah. Can you? Okay. That people with dyslexia have made significant contribution in so many areas of development and research in so many areas. I've done quite a number of assessments actually locally for some of prominent leaders here in Kenya. Unfortunately, I'm not be able to mention any, but I know people with dyslexia have strong sense of justice, and so many of them would spearhead a number of organizations that would fight for justice, for to deal with discrimination. They tend to be quite strong with visual and hands-on learning activities, and ends up doing so well in IT, in businesses, in engineering, medicine, and the like. And so you find so many prominent doctors who were diagnosed with dyslexia or who are thought to have dyslexia, and in so many other areas. And unfortunately, I don't seem to get any off head right now. But locally, I've done quite a number of assessments, but because of previous issues, I can't really mention any. Right.
Understood. That's perfectly understood. For me, at least on my list, what I'd seen, Candy mentioned Richard Branson and Albert Einstein. What our viewers might not know, or they might know, is Tom Cruise is dyslexic. Pablo Picasso is dyslexic. Steven Spielberg, Walt Disney. These are just to mention a few. And I can see Martin has finally joined us for the end of the show. Thank you so much, Martin, for gracing us with your presence. Yeah, but as we do with our guests always, I'd like to ask each one of you to give us a parting shot on today's subject. Or anything you'd like to leave the viewers with in terms of, yeah, what kind of impression would you like to leave our viewers about dyslexia? Or what challenge would you like them to take up? I'll start with Kendi, then go to Daktari, and then finish with Phyllis. So Kendi, if you can unmute your mic and just give us your parting shot.
Dyslexics need our support to reach their full potential. So the more we talk about dyslexia and create awareness, these children need to be supported from the word go, because the more we push them to move into classes without really dealing with their problem, the more the problem becomes bigger as the gap widens. So if intervention is started early, these kids will reach their full potential. So please, let's create awareness and let's keep talking about dyslexia. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendi. Daktari, what is your parting shot?
Right. Early intervention is extremely important. If we keep denying that, no, sometimes we have cases where the parent will say, I think the problem is with the teacher, the problem is with the school, and keep blaming each other instead of focusing on intervention. So early intervention is important, and once the child has been identified to be experiencing some challenges, then put the child in the right program and keep going. The child will make good progress and will be able to succeed. And we also need to think of having access programs for our examination, because we have so many people who fail the examination because they could not access it appropriately, yet they have the right content. So it's another area that we need to really focus on. Right.
Gr8le, you have muted.
That's the first time the guest has actually told me that. Thank you. So that is brilliant. Okay, so I'll say yes. What is your parting shot?
My parting shot is that if about 90% of teachers were able to just identify and screen children with learning difficulties, the challenges and the struggles and the frustration that these children would are having would be eliminated. So I would call, as even as we call for awareness, is now need to step back up and have teacher training, and this topic or dyslexia or introduction of learning disability or learning difficulties should be provided to all teachers, not only the teachers for learning, not for the special need teachers only, but all teachers in all levels, from the preschool to primary to high school to university, should be able to at least be able to identify dyslexia or learning difficulties, so that at least the other intervention, because as I said, children are identified at school. Most of them are identified at school, not at home. So the teachers, if teachers are able to identify and advise the parents, then we are going to have the other intervention. And finally, I said we are likely to go red again for dyslexia. KICC might just go red for a whole week. We've just gotten in conversation with the KICC, so we are likely to go red. So I'm inviting again people and yourself to continue donning red, and we are going to have week go red, and we now go blasts. This is the Dyslexia Awareness Month, and so let us create awareness and have as many. If only one child will stop suffering because of their learning difficulties, because of our awareness this month, then we shall have achieved something and helped the society and the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. I'm hoping that when we go red for dyslexia, people don't think that Valentine has come early or something like that. That's my what kind of thinking. I have a very lovely parting shot, and I'm sure our guests actually know this particular parting shot I want to share. But it's not something that's common. It's only something I came across recently as I was preparing for this show. It's a poem that was written by a 10-year-old student, and it's titled Dyslexia. And it starts like this. It's an interesting way that the poem is done, because you read it one way, reading it downwards, it says something, but when you read it backwards, it communicates a whole different message altogether. So bear my voice right now. So it starts dyslexia. It says, I am stupid. Nobody should ever say, I have a talent for words. I was meant to be great. That is wrong. I am a failure. Nobody could ever convince me to think that I can make it in life. That's how the original poem went. Then she wrote there, now read up. And the way you write it backwards means, I can make it in life. Nobody could ever convince me to think that I am a failure. That is wrong. I was meant to be great. I have a talent for words. Nobody could ever say I am stupid. I thought that was a very clever way of actually now describing how dyslexia, through a poem, read one way meaning one thing, read the other way meaning something else. So it's a very powerful message that she's managed to put out there. And to all of you as well, thank you so much for taking time to join us and explaining and expounding on dyslexia. I think it's one of those conditions that people don't really know much about. They're like, yeah, okay, I've heard about it. And like I started at the beginning, dyslexia is a difficult word to spell. But I think at the end of all this, I think our viewers now understand it's not something that should be shunned. It's not something that is a taboo word. It's just something that needs to be, it's something that needs to be managed. And managing it is by creating more awareness about it. Go red for dyslexia, at least, is one thing. I'd never heard about that until we actually did this show. So those are the kind of learnings I think need to be expanded on to a lot of people there who might not necessarily be ignorant. They're aware of dyslexia, but don't know how to then deal with the situation or manage the situation. So that's, for me, the end of my show, or our show. I'd like to say thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you again soon, and we will make sure that we do post on our video, which usually comes up almost immediately after this. So this will be then posted for those people who might not have been able to catch the live broadcast, and we'll ensure that we put up your handles in terms of the websites to get more information about that. So managed to say thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you as our guest, and hopefully we'll see you soon back on Great Leadership Live. This, of course, was episode number 20, and we're very honored to have you guys. Thank you so much. Have a very good night.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Bye.